Welcome back. Welcome in. This is Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com, a CBS Sports podcast. I am Mike Casaza, welcoming in Chris Anderson. Chris, last day of October, a week from today, the college basketball season starts. Never started as early in West Virginia history. I think I've said that maybe 2 or 3 years in a row. It just seems like they get moving us forward and forward and forward. It's encroaching upon football season, which is not necessarily bad news around here. Bob Huggins, very creative when it comes to roster management. I don't know how he pulled this one off. He did, amidst a lot of competition, but the preseason Conference Player of the Year from the Manhattan Jaspers, point guard, pushing 19 points a game, helps the backcourt. Jose Perez, welcome to Morgantown. I guess this is fast. I'm still trying to get answers, but this seems like good news.
Yeah, I mean, it's never bad news to add guys. And if you can figure out how to play with the roster the way that they have, the way that they currently are. I mean, right now, you add Perez, and the limit is 13, and West Virginia is going to have essentially 15 scholarship players on their roster between Perez and Josiah Davis. That's great. Like, that's never like, I mean, I know like you don't want to break the rules, but if you can bend them, this is a good way to bend them to make sure you get the bodies, to get the talent in, because eventually you're going to find the answer to what you're looking for if you keep adding bodies like this, especially somebody, again, who has done it before, can score the ball, can rebound, can pass, can kind of do all those things. And if that's what you're looking for, you got to find a way to add them. And West Virginia somehow did last minute, maybe not even last minute, like middle of the semester, and which I guess we're going to get to talking to here shortly, but just an interesting situation but a great ad. Like, no matter whatever capacity he's able to contribute in, it's a good ad because it might literally cost you nothing.
Yeah. Fourth school for him. How many schools have multiple players who have played at 4 programs? That may become more common now, but this is Gardner Webb, Marquette, Manhattan, West Virginia. Really got it going at Manhattan last year. 18.9 points, 4.5 assists, 3.2 rebounds, 40% from the floor, 25% from 3. But a 6'5" guard from the Bronx. And one of my favorite here, Putnam Science Academy in New York. Actually been a pretty good school when it comes to basketball players and getting talent out there too. So this checks a lot of boxes for them. It also leaves some question marks here. And boy, do we have questions, don't we?
Well, I don't know if we do. I mean, maybe we do too. But what prompted us to do this one is a someone. I don't know, it's not a capital S someone, because I think we've gone over what capital S means.
It used to be a capital S someone.
Yeah, it used to be. But just an interesting, it was a great long text, a little bit of spite in there. It might give away who he is. About Kansas, and is asking the question is about, we're trying to figure out when and how can Jose Perez play. Again, we're recording this on Halloween. He committed Sunday night, October 30th, which is how many weeks into the fall semester? 8?
I mean, it's almost midterm time.
Right. And we were told, he's just not playing first semester, going to play second semester. And then he does an interview with Deshaun London from our network, 24/7 Sports, and says he's got a waiver in to be eligible. And when, where, how, don't know. But that prompted a certain someone, medium-sized someone, I guess we'll say, a little famous celebrity in the West Virginia Twitter space, asking me, if I'm Bob Huggins, recent Hall of Fame inductee, and a guy maybe looking for a cause, I put Jose Perez on the court in game 1, and if they tell me he can't play, I protest loudly and use the Kansas investigation every opportunity I get. His argument being, that Kansas has had some issues and notice of allegations back in 2019 based on infractions that were in 2017. including their current assistant coach, who is on record as having requested money for Zion Williamson back in the day and has not, as far as I know, faced any punishment for it. And this person tells me that Bob Huggins should take a stand and play Jose Perez until the NCAA asks Curtis Towson to sit out a few games. I mean, I get his point, but I don't think we're going to get that far, are we?
This is just not a mystery to anybody who's been able to put the pieces together that you have. The identity of this person is not a mystery if they've been able to follow along what you're saying here, because this person has been pretty clear about this for quite some time, and I admire the consistency.
Yes.
Just to the side here, do welcome David Cougar to West Virginia University. He was introduced as the new head of governor and compliance at WVU.
Uh-huh.
This one arrived on his desk. Hey, can you make this guy eligible? By the way, my name is Bob. Here's my director of recruiting, Jay. Good to meet you. We'll do lunch.
Yeah.
I can just see that being the conversation here, because here's a guy. The last day to withdraw from classes, not that that's any type of a thing that really matters, is November 15. Drop a class, withdraw from the university. But that means that's pretty much the midpoint of the semester. Your fall recess is the 19th. So there's a month before the end of the semester, I guess, here. Your last day of classes, your final exams are coming up early December. So they can maybe make this work here. I don't know. But to that person's point, and what we understand, this is gray area because of immediate eligibility. It just is. I remember when Oscar left, people were like, well, can he play right away? And he had to sit out a semester, right? So that didn't work. I think that you can't compete for multiple schools in the same athletic year or the same semester. And that might both apply here. So he just might not be able to do that. But there's nothing in there that says he can't, like before the season starts, his competition schedule, like why couldn't he transfer out and be immediately eligible? I just think that the academic calendar is going to be prohibitive here. I'm piecing this in with people who are giving me like, I think this is it. It could be this. Check on that. Don't have the answers yet, but the people that we talked to said pretty confident he'll be eligible for the spring semester, which means those are the first games immediately after the end of the fall semester. It does not mean the first games once the spring semester begins. There's some number of games in between the end of the fall semester and the beginning of the spring semester, non-conference stuff, and I believe even the beginning of conference play. He might be available.
Yeah, that's great, because I'm glad you brought that up, because that was something that in my initial story I said for me personally, I was unclear on what that was, because what the when does the fall semester ends? Like what, the second week of December, like the 18th or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the spring semester begins January 9th. That's the first day of classes. And in between there, you got Stony Brook. Okay, who cares? But then you have the beginning of Big 12 play. Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Kansas are those three games that kind of fall between the end of the fall semester and the start of the spring semester. So if he's eligible to play after the end of the fall semester rather than the start of the spring, then he's there for the entirety of Big 12 conference play, which I think is notable. I mean, 3 games out of 16 is not, missing those is not going to kill you, but having him there for those 3, one extra win could make a big difference in what West Virginia is trying to do this season. So having him for those 3 games could be big.
I mean, technically, he could play the 18th of December against Buffalo.
Okay, because Friday or Saturday is the last day. Friday is the last day, the 16th. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. So he could do that, Stony Brook, and then the back-to-back road games, Kansas State, Oklahoma, and then, hey, welcome to Coliseum. Last game before the start of the semester is a Saturday game at home against Kansas. 5 games where, that can get him a head start, but like the first 2 non-conference would be important just to get him out there and go. My other question, and this is where things kind of get rendered to a certain status where we just can't be definitive as of yet, despite efforts to do so. How the heck does he enroll and practice and work out and do the training table and be academically eligible? The one thing I've heard is that there are different online enrollment dates that could make this happen for him. So I don't know a ton about this from my limited time of doing online teaching. And it was very different when I was doing it. It's changed a lot in the last couple of years, and it's been almost 3 years since I taught. So um, there are different ways you can enroll, but you got to get the full time. And how many full time classes are you going to take in half a semester online, right? Or is
Yeah.
he a graduate student where it's a little bit different? And I'm just kind of going back here. This is not a perfect comparison, but Parker Growthhouse.
No, I'm glad you went there. That's where I was gonna
So refresh
push this.
everybody's memory here, Chris, because that would seem to be a model they could perhaps follow here.
Well, I mean, you knew it better than me because you were the one that asked about it. But I remember both of us were like, wait, how did that guy get in? Because was it like March or something where he decided that he was going to transfer to West Virginia, and then he was at spring practice. And I was like, wait, spring semester started in January. How is he practicing if he didn't make a decision until afterwards? And it was related to, if I recall correctly, Florida State being on a trimester system. Is that right?
There was some sort of roulette that let him hop off and get on at the right time, and it worked out for him. So again, even more specific to the player, but the actual school too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's tough. Yeah. I don't know how they do this. I'm fascinated. I like to ask some questions, get some answers, and I wonder how much of that is true behind closed doors over there as well. So they could make it happen, and then could you just kick and scream? Like immediate eligibility is immediate eligibility. Why do we have all these hangups here? But this is kind of a blind spot, a gray area when it came to some of these winter sports that their competition in the fall semester just starts so not late because they've been going at it for a while, but like in a competition sense, or this doesn't happen with everybody, but if your head coach gets fired 2 weeks before the start of your season and you're granted a release and a relief so you can transfer, there's got to be some sort of mechanism that further facilitates your ability to play. Say what you will about the NCAA, they've been really kind to players and their hardships like this. This is not the player's fault. He gladly would have come back and played for the coach he transferred to, and then the school he was pretty good at last year. That was taken away from him, and I think the NCAA says, how can we help the player here? I expect that based on West Virginia's confidence, he'll be good to go in the start of the second semester, but I just have a lot of questions about how that's going to happen. I hope they get answered, but on the whole, Chris, great addition for them. Big guard, gets to the basket, and then if you look at them, what I noticed watching them on Friday night, kind of small in the backcourt. This would change that.
Yeah, you look at some of those guys that were playing and look at their sizes, and you think, all right, they're playing good defense, but are they going to be able to finish at the rim? Are they being able to finish over bigger bodies? Are they going to be able to get in there and rebound as well? That was something I actually liked from what I saw from Stevenson. He led the team in rebounds, I think, for that scrimmage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the exhibition, and so I like that from him. And if you compare Perez with him, then all of a sudden you have two big guards that can get to the rim and can grab rebounds. Because when Perez was still at Gardner-Webb, now his numbers went down a little bit when he was at Manhattan, but I think that was because he took on maybe a slightly different role, more of a pass first, not a pass first guard, but more ball handling. But he was averaging over 6 rebounds per game at
Yeah.
Gardner-Webb. Like he is not a small dude, because not only is he 6'5", but he's a very solid 220, according to like assuming these listings are correct. Then that's the kind of guy you can there's something to having guards that can rebound. It really just lifts your whole program. It's getting those long rebounds. It's helping out the big men, especially when your big men might not be 3 straight 6'10" guys. And now West Virginia's got a couple of those big guys now, but are they all going to play? Are they all going to rebound? They did a nice job in that exhibition, but when Trey Mitchell comes back and he's more of a kind of outside in scoring forward more so than a big man that's rebounding, you're going to need these guards that can rebound. So this is a nice piece that does a lot of things. He's got good scoring numbers, rebounding numbers, passing numbers. Two things that worry me, because worry me. It's just he'll fit in nicely because he can't shoot from 3 and he turns the ball over a lot. So
Yeah, how about that? Some of that's teammates, and
yeah,
sometimes, an assist total is how many of your guys make shots too. You may have
right.
perfect passes, so that's hard stuff to do. I just watching them the other night again, small in the backcourt. I thought there were times when Toussaint and Keedy Johnson were out there together. That might be a closing lineup according to Huggins, but that's kind of a smallish. Quick, I get that, but smallish, and I'm not sure great offensively. Although this has been consistent. They really want Kedrian Johnson to put his head down and go and kind of get guys off balance and zip past him. He's doing that. That's good. Shooting, we'll see. Don't know. But playing Kobe Johnson at small forward, that was very interesting to me. I'm not sure he's the biggest of the three because Kedrian Johnson's kind of a long guy, but Kobe Johnson playing small forward, that's a 3-guard lineup with Stevenson as the 2 and kind of a facilitating 2 who's really playing the 1 a little bit. But you could definitely see a 3-guard now with Kedrian Johnson, Perez, Stevenson. And that's much more like a 1-2-3 if, Stevenson and Perez are, what's Stevenson, 6'4", 6'5"?
Yeah.
Kind of big guys, right? So that can help them there a little bit too. And then just big point guards are tough, especially when you're trying to get passes from the point inside to, bigger defenders, or if you're trying to see over defenses that move. When defenses sag a little bit, which is prone to happen in West Virginia, it's pretty cool if you can see that stuff. You can stand up and look over guys and be able to get the ball or see where those gaps are not. That can help you out a little bit, and that could be good. It could be a really good piece for them. We'll see. But how they get him enrolled, how he gets developed, how quickly they can heat him up to play, those first 5 games in between semesters. But also, man, their Big 12 schedule is tough. And again, I look at the end of the season, that could be where they're trying to fight for position. More and more, this just seems like, can they get into the postseason with momentum and with some polish and sharp? Boy, that's a good piece to have, because more flexibility, just a big guard who can do different things, play different positions, that kind of lets you kind of continue to rotate around matchups, opponents, so on and so forth. But even before you get there, the cart and the horse got to get in order, and how they get him in and how they get him eligible, that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, and he's not the same player, and Haley was listed a little bit taller, but I was in love with Jermaine Haley for all the reasons you're talking about, just being that big 6'5", 6'6" guy that can drive to the basket. And Haley was not, like, by no means not even close to fat, but he was thick. He was solid. Like, he wasn't some stick that was trying to dribble into the lane. He could finish at the rim. And I think when any team has that, it makes them so much better. And Haley was that. And again, this Perez is listed an inch or 2 shorter, but if he can do the kind of things that Haley did, then that could really help elevate this team.
Quite an off season, quite a transaction season for West Virginia, and it didn't even end when the portal dates are there for a reason, I guess, here, and this may be one of them more definitive. But you figure that certainly when, like, July comes, you figure that the portal season ends. But hey, not the case. And then again, not the fault of the player. Could be West Virginia's benefit. We'll find out soon. We'll find out how. See how this works. See when it begins. Until then, I'm Mike Casaza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We'll talk to you then.